Succession has concluded. The series is over. It is done. And before I get into this review, it's going to be full of spoilers for the series, the final season, the finale, everything. So you have been warned. At the end of season 3, the three main siblings get screwed. Tom betrays Shiv, and they're on their own. I mean, they're on their own with billions of dollars, but you get what I mean. And I thought that was an interesting dynamic going into season 4, and I was excited but a little anxious to see how they would wrap everything up, because at the end of season 3, there's so much more to be told, and they said this was the final season, so I was very excited, but like I said, anxious that they could pull off a satisfying ending to the series, because it's been fantastic so far. In season 4 of Succession, the finale Succession was amazing, spectacular, masterful. It was perfect. I think this is probably my favorite season, Succession. That and season 3, I think those two are my favorite seasons of the series. Honestly, you could throw 2 in there. I mean, they are just masterful seasons of television. It's sad to see a show go, but I have to say the way they ended it, I should have never been in doubt with these showrunners and these show creators, because they obviously know what they're doing with these characters, the story, because I think how they ended everything was perfect. And that's why you sweep the Emmys every single year, because you have showrunners that know what they're doing, you have some of the best performances in the history of television, and you have a compelling story. You combine all that, you sweep the Emmys every year. But the biggest twist, the biggest shock of the season was Logan dying in episode 3, the episode called Connor's Wedding. And this was one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen. The way that they were able to craft the sense of denial and confusion and depression throughout this whole entire episode, that you as a viewer were feeling the same exact emotions as our characters were. Because at first you're like, wait, is this really happening? And then as it's going on, you're like, oh shit, like this actually might be happening. And you're still in denial till about that final frame when we do see Logan's body finally pulled out of the plane. And I just think how all that was crafted was perfect, and it was masterfully done, because it felt so real. And that's why the show is so great, is the realism of it, the grounded story and how everything plays out. It doesn't feel cinematic, it feels extremely real. And that's why that episode was just spectacular. It really hit me. The way they were able to craft something that felt so real about someone passing away out of nowhere, there's no words to describe it. I mean, everything they did in the episode was just spectacular. I mean, the performances were out of this world. I have to talk about the performances now, because they are some of the best we have ever seen in television. First, I have to talk about Kerry Culkin, because I think he had the best performance of this season. It's some of the best acting I've ever seen, because throughout the show, you know, he doesn't really want to be part of all the nonsense, but he's putting on this mask to be part of this nonsense because he feels like he has to, because he feels like he needs his father's approval. And those moments where that mask cracks and he shows the true side of himself, where, you know, he doesn't really want to do any of this stuff, it's just spectacular acting. It feels so real, like I've always been saying, and you'll hear me say this a million times moving forward in this review. It feels very real. And that's what you want in a performance like this. You don't want it to feel cinematic or anything like that. It feels like a real person is actually breaking down, a real person's having this internal conflict with himself. And I thought what he did was perfect. Sarah Snook was spectacular here too. She's dealing with her husband stabbing her in the back, but she's also trying to keep up a straight face and keep moving forward. But obviously there's a lot of trauma behind that. She feels like there's no one she can really trust. When her father passes away, she feels like she's really the only one grieving, when everyone else is trying to get their hands on the crown and trying to scheme around that. But she feels like she has to be part of that too. But also at the same time, she feels like she's the only one that has really lost a father. And I think everything that she did in this season too really plays well with her character, and her performance is magnificent. Obviously, Jeremy Strong is amazing too. He's done so well throughout this whole entire series, and this season is no different as well. He's had to see so many different ranges with this character, because Kendall has done so much throughout this whole entire series. But I think having Logan pass away in episode 3 was an excellent idea, because we finally get to see the succession part of things. We finally get to see the siblings fight over the crown, or not just the siblings, we get to see everyone else fight over the crown. And how everything plays out was just so well done, because the siblings have to make choices throughout the rest of these episodes. And you can tell that for the most part, and most of the time, they keep making the wrong decisions. They're clearly not cut out for this. And every decision they make, you can just feel the crown being pushed further and further away from them. So we eventually get to the finale, where we have all these different elements playing out. I mean, they really botched the election because they called it too early. They've lost some credibility there, and they overplayed their hand because now this possible president isn't even going to work with them. But even with these outside factors, you feel like the main threat is themselves, for them to keep the company, because they have their own issues. But I do love that moment where they're hanging out their mom's like super nice villa in Barbados, and they're just having this wonderful moment as just siblings again. Like, they're having fun, they're playing with the cheese, they're making that disgusting concoction, and it feels like they're actually siblings. It feels like they're finally happy, and something's gonna actually happen here where there's gonna be a happy ending. Because the creators of the show say this is supposed to be a tragedy, and those moments are supposed to hurt even more, because what happens next is absolutely tragic. Because we get to the point where they're about to go to the board meeting, and right before they're about to go in the board meeting, Kendall starts getting into his own ego, where he's putting his feet up on Logan's desk. You can tell that Shiv doesn't like that. You can tell Shiv's whole demeanor changes once he does that move. You could just tell he's slowly turning into Logan, and that kind of irked everyone. And then we get to the board meeting. We just need one more vote to keep the company. It's Shiv's vote. And she has second guesses because of already how the way Kendall's acting. And yes, I think it's completely out of pittiness on Shiv's part, but at the same time, the way Kendall's acting, it feels like he's not really the man for this job. And then the way that Kendall reacts to Shiv not voting for him, and how Roman starts to side with Shiv a little bit, he throws a tantrum and essentially reassures that Shiv is making the right decision, because none of them are cut out to do this. And then you realize Logan was right all along, because the last thing he says to them was, "You're not serious people." And then Roman says, "We're bullshit. We're just bullshit." You finally realize as an audience that none of them are cut out to do this. It's been played out throughout the whole entire series. They all have their different flaws on why they're not cut out to do this job. And it's a tough pill to swallow. And the one man to do this job was Tom. Yes, Tom and Greg made it to the top. I wanted them to make it to the top, but it's not as happy as you would think, because Tom is really just a shell of a CEO. He's not really going to make any big decisions, and now he's trapped in this corporate lifestyle forever. And Greg, yeah, they have that great moment where he says, "I got you," and it's like somewhat sincere, but I kind of viewed it as he was marking him as his property. It seems like he has control over him forever now. And when you look at the fate of each of the three siblings, you realize that Roman probably is the only one that got the happy ending, because at the beginning of the show, you know he never really wanted to do this. But now he's finally out, and he can go back to probably being happy again. He doesn't have to worry about this bullshit anymore. It's stuff he didn't even want to do. And then Shiv, she didn't have a happy ending. She's trapped in a loveless marriage where she's just so close to the crown, but she's never going to be able to capture it, because Tom is CEO and she's married to a powerful CEO now. And in a cruel twist of fate, she's now like her mother. And she never wanted to be her mother, but now she's destined to be just like her mother, married to a powerful CEO, and who knows, she might be a bad mom, like her own mom. And then Kendall has the saddest fate of them all, because he now has nothing. He invested everything into becoming CEO. His father told him he's going to be CEO when he was 7, so that's all he's ever known, that's all he's ever wanted to do. And he's been so crazed by that idea that he's lost his kids, he's lost his wife, now he's lost his siblings, he's lost literally everything. Yes, he has billions of dollars. He has generational wealth, I understand that, but that's not the point of the show, because the money was never the issue for him. It was the power, it was the status. And he's never going to get to that point ever again, but he was so close to getting everything he wanted. But in the end, it was his own blood that betrayed him. And I just think that overall arc of this story was just masterfully done. when you look back at the series, it seems like that was the most logical way and the most realistic way this was all going to go down. How everything played out in the finale and how our characters acted is how our characters acted throughout the whole entire series. And that's because the show makers, the show creators, the writers, they understand these characters so well. They understand the things they like, the things they dislike, the things that motivate them to do the things they do. They are just well-recognized characters, and that's why the show is masterful. I think this is one of the best series we'll ever see in television. I think seasons 2, 3, and 4 are all perfect. They're some of the best seasons of television we'll ever see. I think it's some of the best performances we'll ever see. It is a show that really is such high quality that when you're watching it, you know you're watching something extremely special. And I have to give all the credit in the world to the showmakers and the writers and everyone on this production to make a show this great, but also know when to end, because it does feel like there is more of the story that could be told, for sure. But ending it here seemed like the most logical. Seems like the way the story would play out and how you would want to end a story like this, because it is perfect. I'm going to give season 4 Succession 10 Davey Daves.
It's over! It's over!
There's probably so much I missed with the season that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't want this video to be like 3 hours long, so I really narrowed it down to my favorite parts about the season. I mean, I could have made an hour-long video about the election night episode because that was just riveting. Everything in the season just worked out so well. I'm going to miss the show a lot. There's a lot of great content coming out this week. I mean, with this and then Spider-Verse, it's been great so far this week. But there's other shows I need to review. I'll try and get them out as quickly as I can. I need to do Ted Lasso and Barry. I'll try and get them out as quickly as I can, so please bear with me. So, the Succession finale. Let me know what you guys thought of it once you've seen it. I'm curious to hear. And thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Dave's Takes.